Live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125. This is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. In our headlines, there's an increase in Burkinabés trooping into Ghana to seek refuge following attacks on their communities by armed insurgent groups. As UNDP report reviews, communities most at risk of terrorist attack in the northern part of the country remain unaware of the See Something, Say Something initiative. Also, the Attorney General and Majority Leader take on Dormaahene for suggesting the state should drop criminal charges against Asin North MP-elect James Gyakye Quayson, describing the traditional ruler's comment as unhealthy for Ghana's democracy. At 8 p.m., I'll hand over to Beverly Broom to bring us Prime Business.
City stability in the next 6 months would depend largely on the economic assessment of the IMF. That's according to Courage Buti, research lead at GCB Capital.
Later on, Razak Musbah will join us with Prime Sports.
The board and management of Kumasi Asante Kotoko has been dissolved by the club owner Tumfo Saitutu II following the club's trophyless campaign in the just ended Ghana football season.
This is the home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Please stay with us for details. Now, more Burkinabés are trooping into Ghana to seek refuge following attacks on their communities by armed insurgent groups. Last week, hundreds of them arrived in the Pusiga district of the Upper East region, weeks after deserting their own communities, which they say were attacked by people believed to be members of an armed militant group. The arrival of these refugees is raising security, health, and even food security concerns in that part of the Upper East region, where some of them are reconnecting with their kinsmen in Ghana. Correspondent Albert Sori reports.
Sad, dejected, and looking very exhausted. These are people from Tarim-Nwaga, a community somewhere in the south of Burkina Faso. They are here in Ghana at the Yarga No. 2 community in Pusiga in the Upper East region seeking refuge. They say a few weeks ago, their community was attacked by armed men believed to be members of an insurgent militant group. At least 5 people were killed and the rest of them had to run for their lives. Although it is not clear which armed militant group attacked the community, Osmani Sebgo, one of the refugees, calls them Boko Haram.
We were there at Tarim-Nwaga. These Boko Haram people came there and told us that they want us to leave the place. We thought they were joking. For some number of days they came back, and when they came, they succeeded killing about 5 people in our presence, slaughtered them. And when they did that, it now tells us that everybody should run away. So we have to run away. We escaped from Tarim-Nwaga in our community, and we went to Sanga. And when we went to Sanga, we got to Sanga and realized that that place too is not safe because they are coming there threatening the people that they will kill them. So we have nothing to do than to escape to Ghana, where some of our relatives are. So when we came to Yarga No. 2, then we came and met our people, and they gave us a place to stay.
Some of the refugees arrived 2 weeks ago, and others followed later. An estimated 1,500 of them are currently in various parts of the Pusiga district. A lot of them are women and children, even toddlers as young as 8 months old.
As we are here, we didn't come with anything. And we are here, the people are helping us, and we are also helping ourselves small, and that's how we live. Nobody comes here to support us. Our people, even that we left there, we don't even know what is happening there. We want food for our children and ourselves, and look at the small children that are here, no school.
At the Yarga No. 2 community, where many of the refugees first arrived, the Ghanaians here are finding it difficult to give them shelter, let alone food. Here is the chief of the community.
We With your small family, at least 10 people in the family, and about 40 or 50 people come to add you. How are you going to feed them? Even you with your 10 people, it gets to some time that you have to buy and add. And now another people have come to join you. How are you going to manage it? So as for the food situation, is an issue to them.
Some of the refugees have kinsmen resident here at Yarga number 2 and other parts of Pusiga. So it is more like tracing their roots back home. Therefore, the Ghanaians feel they must find a way to accommodate them. One of the men providing shelter for these refugees is Issa Zakari, who says he accommodates 12 of them in this small room.
It's our people, and they migrated and they came. And because of that, this house, for instance, is much that as you move from this house to my new house and then leave this one for the refugees to also settle. This room has been accommodated 12 people. And this other room too is accommodating 11 people there. And then this other room too is also accommodating about 14 people there. They normally sleep here. After sleeping, then they will go outside and struggle and see whether they also get food, their daily bread, and support themselves. Because we, the landlords, we cannot support them 100% because for now our food self is not sufficient for my family members.
This old woman is one of the refugees being sheltered in Zachari's home.
It's our auntie. She's too old. She's about 120 years. When it happens, so the children have no any place to go with her. So they have to move with her and also come to the family house. So we have nothing to do than to also collect her and accommodate her.
The community members of Yarga number 2 are worried that the influx of these refugees could have serious health implications because this dilapidated building here is what serves as a CHIPS center. There are no health officials stationed here. At the time of our visit, there was no known record of a health screening exercise for the refugees. In other places such as Pulmakum, Zong Natinga, and Wedana, all in the Pusiga district, hundreds of refugees could be seen. The Ghanaians in these parts are mainly peasant farmers, some of whom have had to give out their lands to those of the refugees who are their relatives. Sali Abugurago is a farmer at Wedana who now barely has any land left for his farming activities this rainy season.
I had one in my house. He came with 5 wives, with 21 children. Luckily, when he came, I had rooms and I was able to give them 5 rooms. And up to now, they are still in my house. Being a former assembly member, when they get to the checkpoint, they will mention my name. And the immigration officers will call me. I will go identify them. Some are in my family houses, some are filling stations, some don't have food. We are getting pressure. Even they are looking for land to farm. Somebody called me and said, oh, his family came to his house, so he needs the land. And I offer for them about 3 places. So this year, I don't have a farm to farm self.
The Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana was forced to visit the Pusiga district after its members here reported a possible food shortage crisis in these parts due to the influx of the Burkinabe refugees. Dr. Charles Inyaba is the executive director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana.
When it rained and they were preparing to farm, they realized that apart from just supporting them or sharing their food with them, they need to also share their lands with them, share their inputs with them. And the pressure was mounting on the secretariat that how can we help our own members? So it is the reason I decided to come here myself to see what's happening. So for us, it's a serious problem that we think that is beyond our handling as Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. This area is one of the food baskets of Upper East. they produce all kinds of crops, ranging from sorghum, soybeans, maize. Here's the case, they will not be able to do that because of these pressures. So we are here to appeal to the whole country, the NGO development partners, the government, to see how best we can allocate some resources to support these immigrants and then to also support our own farmers to be able to produce.
Reports indicate that more of these refugees could arrive in the Upper East region in the coming weeks or even days. Reporting for Joy News, Albert Sorry, Pusiga.
Now joining us at the back of the story via Zoom is Dr. Victor Doke, lecturer in conflict, peace and security at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Doc, grateful that you could join us here. First of all, what do you make of this trend of more Burkinabés moving into Ghana?
Well, thank you very much, Kudu. What I make of it is in due course or in the near future, we're going to have what we call the humanitarian crisis in our hands. Now, when you look at the report, the women and children having been hosted in houses, this is particularly not right, especially when you have the women and children outnumbering the men. There needs to be a centralized place, or what we call an area where you can host these asylum seekers coming in, because then you're going to have more coming in the future. Then now you can have systems in place. Now this is a time all stakeholders need to come together and then put in mechanisms, identify them as they come in, and then go on a comprehensive sensitization and education within the whole community via radio or whatever means they would, announce to the general public in those communities that anytime they take in or see these kind of situations with regards to asylum seekers coming in, they should prompt the authorities. The authorities will now go where they are, pick them up, and then have a place where to keep all these people coming in. Then now you can have a proper system when it comes to record keeping. You know the number of youth in there, the women and the children, the vulnerable. Then now you can plan. As it is now, there is no system in place. So all of them are scattered. Some are in relatives' homes or wherever. Now, how do you plan effectively to even have humanitarian assistance for these people, especially the women and children, let alone talk about the security aspect?
So how can we then ensure that some of these violent extremists do not sneak into the country through, coming in as asylum seekers?
Well, what we need to do is, now, the stakeholders need to come on board as it is now. The Ghana Refugee Board. You're talking about security agencies, the intelligence bureaus, get them involved, the local NGOs there. Now, the UN agencies are also there, particularly United Nations High Commission for Refugees and other UN agencies that would assist. Now, all these stakeholders need to come together. The focal lead, of course, is the Ghana Refugee Board, who would have technical capacity or backstopping from these agencies that have been mentioned. Now, you have a system in place, what we call the screening. The screening entails you picking these people up as when they come in, identifying the route where they are coming through. Then that way you can have personnel stationed there. As and when they come, you pick them up, take them to a centralized place, a camp or whatever you call it. Now you go through record taking. So you can know the number of children, women, the youth, and let's not forget, the youths are the ones who partake in these extremist activities. So you need to know the number of them. Now, record or data has shown that the women now have also been involved in violent extremist activities. They serve as intelligence sources for these violent groups. They smuggle in weapons through whatever routes they find necessary. Records are there, and field data also provides evidence to that effect. We need to have this system in place. Other than that, then you will see these kind of groups coming in, tripling in with the excuse that their communities are being attacked there, and then we would have some sort of chaos in our hands. Humanitarian rights. You look at the community, you have to prevent the conflict between the host community and these asylum seekers. Now, from the report, there's no food there. That tells you a lot.
Okay. Doc, stay on the line for me, because a report commissioned by the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, is questioning the effectiveness of government's key anti-terrorism initiative to get public support to fight threat. The report, titled Vulnerability Assessment on the Threat of Violent Extremism and Radicalization in Northern Regions in Ghana, reviews communities most at risk in the northern part of the country remain unaware of the See Something, Say Something initiative. We'll be getting details of the report shortly. But first, speaking at the just-ended Counter-Terrorism Week event at the United Nations headquarters, Minister for National Security Albert Kandapa said some countries in West Africa have been caught off guard by the terrorists.
The reality is that many African countries, particularly those in West Africa, least expected that the threat profile in the region would evolve in a manner where terrorism would emerge as the foremost threat to statehood. As a result, little efforts were made to invest in building the right kind of resilience that is needed to prevent the spread of terrorism. And so as the menace continues to spread from the Sahel region to coastal West Africa, I must say that a number of countries in the region have been caught off guard. We are now raising against time to simultaneously enhance our military capability and invest in non-kinetic interventions, mainly along border communities considered to be vulnerable to radicalization and terrorist infiltration.
He says a recent report has confirmed West Africa, which includes Ghana, as the hotbed of terrorism in the world.
Important to improve upon the governance of the various countries. We need to have more democratic forms of governance. We need to improve upon inclusivity in the governance of the country. We need to ensure that civil societies are given a role to play in the governance of the country. And above all, that the accountability mechanisms that exist in the various countries are also made to work such that the governments of their respective countries can be held to account. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have very limited time to act. The atrocities unfolding in the Sahel region and West Africa reveal the sheer scale of threat confronting us. The release of the recent edition of the Global Terrorism Index confirmed the West African region as the hotbed of terrorism in the whole world. According to the index, 4 out of the top 10 countries highly affected by terrorism are located in West Africa.
Now, sometime last year, the Ministry of National Security launched its terrorism awareness campaign, See Something, Say Something. The citizen awareness campaign encourages the public to be vigilant of the activities of suspicious characters and report such activities and characters to the security agencies. But the UNDP Commission report says communities, especially in the northern Ghana, are unaware of the See Something, Say Something slogan. Maxwell Agbagba joins us via Zoom with extract of the research. Maxwell, what did the report say about the See Something, Say Something campaign? Can you unmute so that we can follow what you're telling us?
Yes, Brace. So the report starts by talking about some of the reasons why communities, especially in the northern part of the country, are vulnerable and are at risk of terrorist attacks and indoctrination. So it talks about poverty. It also talks about limited opportunities and high youth unemployment. It also talks about underemployment as a cross-cutting theme for all the 5 regions. Now, the report says that according to its survey results, across all 5 northern regions, 39% of all youth are classified as not working. And then it moves on to talk about our vulnerabilities and how we can counter these vulnerabilities. It talks about youth empowerment, and then it talks about information sharing and collaboration. This is the point where it talks about the See Something, Say Something campaign, and it says that not much has been done in that regard for communities to especially those at risk of terrorist attack, to embrace it and also share the message across. It is urging governments to exhaustively translate some of these see something, say something campaign messages so the people will grasp it, have a perfect understanding of it, so they can also carry it across to your friends and loved ones who live in your communities, please.
Thank you, Maxwell. Now, let's stay a bit longer on this story because the West Africa Network for Peace Building, ONEP, says while some of the Burkinabés are coming into Ghana, others are also returning, but they are concerned about what the Ghanaian authorities are not being able to capture data on people living with relatives here in Ghana. The national coordinator of the Ghana office of the West Africa Network for Peace Building, Albert Yeliang, joins us via Zoom now. Grateful, sir. First, what is your own assessment of the See Something, Say Something campaign? Kindly unmute for us so we can follow what you're telling us.
Good evening to your listeners. I think that the See Something, Say Something mantra is an agenda set by the government, which I think is good. However, we need to move from the situation where it is seen as an elitist kind of campaign, to the local communities. We need to localize that mantra so that many people at the community level, those communities that are at risk, and even some inland communities, apart from the border communities, every individual, Tom, Dick, and Harry needs to be aware and be alert, first and foremost, of their own environment, so that they can support this mantra, to expand it so that many communities can benefit from it. Otherwise, it remains something that is almost elitist, because if you look at our movement to many of the communities on awareness raising, stretching from Western region, Western North, we also, Domoro, Tumu, Wa, go to, what do you call it, Paga, Nabrungo, Borogatanga, Zebela, and stretching all the way back to the Hoho area, Volta region. The conversation, and even including some of the inland communities, is that they really are not aware of what they are expected to know. What are the indicators that government, or in terms of the agenda setting, indicates that people need to observe on? That really is a problem. So many people are not aware of what really they need to see, and how they should say it to who, is something that we need to expand and to have many of the stakeholders. Otherwise, it becomes something that is elitist, that is only those who are working on the issue or have something to do with it are the ones who know much about it. Recently, there have been push messages from the telcos to many of to those who hold mobile phones. I think that we need to do a little bit more, because some of them see it as just ordinary push messages from the telcos. They don't even look at it very well. So we need to come on with another strategy that will let them know what those messages mean, the import of it, so that people understand the risk thereof. Otherwise, it becomes a problem.
Now, the point about people living with relatives at the blind side of authorities, how does that really pose a danger? The other panelists was talking about it. There are many of the populations who are received or hosted by their families, and you will not blame them, because the scramble for the partition of Africa did not take into consideration that people were having relations across the borders, and the extent that somebody, a relative, is having a problem, they will definitely welcome them and to support them so that they can stay on their feet. Now, the issue is that many of these people might not be captured or profiled by the authorities, just as those who might be, housed at a particular location, and that poses a risk, because the family members do not know what really to look out for. That will let them know that these people might be having tendencies or characteristics of what the mantra, for instance, See Something, Say Something, is saying, and so to the relevant authorities. So that poses, there is another dimension, that gradually we have transhumans moving, especially in the Sisala East district. And these people are not staying within the border, they are, or at the border community. They are moving southwards. Now, these people are not captured by the authorities. And as the other panelists indicated, what really in them we are not able to identify and to track their movement
the activities they are involved in, what communication they are having with other people across the border, we don't know.
Okay, grateful to you for joining me. But let me take a final word from Dr. Victor. Okay, so is this a mark on the or failure on the part of state agencies to try and effectively track the people coming in? If you can do this for me in 30 seconds, I'll be grateful.
It's a challenge for them now, how to get personnel even on the ground to even go to these remote areas and identify these people coming in. That's a big challenge, and they need to work at it. Then otherwise, you'd have many more people coming in, and you wouldn't have even a solution to it. And then you would have armed elements creeping in, and then what will happen is an attack on these communities. So they need to have these bilateral consultations with these communities, get these elders, the youth involved, sensitize, educate on the effects of these violent extremist groups, and then you can have the situation under control.
Okay, all right. Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Moving on to other stories. There's a push from some quarters for sanctions against Dormaahene Osajifo Osiadeyo Ajman Bedu II for suggesting that a criminal trial of NDC MP-elect for Asin North, Gyakye Quayson, must be stopped by the state. Sam Okujeto has described the comment as unfortunate and argued that a traditional ruler's comments mean he is meddling in politics, something a chief and a judge should not do. We'll hear from him shortly. First, though, listen to Dormaahene, who was speaking at the 10th John Evans Atta Mills Memorial Lectures.
I'm on Supreme Court, yes, sir. Nabatwa betu ebenya de bentwem. Yamubi no kreni men kasa de. Same o Supreme Court kasa gina ye no kame me collect, come in right. Na nenti agama kono. One share no bedi sa asem ya wo ntimi nkoka bi. Na mo mesra and the Attorney General of Ghana.
Recently, the Supreme Court decided to annul his election as a member of Parliament. To be very honest, if I was on the Supreme Court, I would have dissented in that matter. As for the reasons I would have dissented, the matter is still in the courts, so I'll not go into details. But I'm pleading with the Attorney General. The law allows him to end such prosecutions when the public are against it.
Majority no 57.56 or as a matter of urgency, I'm appealing to the President of the Attorney General. President of the Republic, if he has any role to play, that trial should be aborted. The Attorney General should, as a matter of urgency, file a nolle prosequi to end that particular decision. Sir, make a way because that was what you did the Ghana for attempt.
The voters have overwhelmingly endorsed the gentleman. 57% is not a small feat in an election. I am saying this because if we continue, it will be an insult to Ghanaians and the people of Asino.
Ghana for a Juma and Mampuntu Aqua. No better my blame. It's on this day. Now my country says, Samri, you are president. You know I love you. This matter cannot go on. Attorney General. Odame, prayer the share, not the share. Shawumum Coco Chasem, if you are him as Ghana for.
Well, the majority leader in Parliament, who is also the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, has also described the comment as unfortunate, vehemently disagreeing with the Dormaahene and saying that it could affect his chances at being promoted in the judiciary in the future.
There are a lot of people who are but one of the other, Mijis and Yaudi Bay, Egina say, or your mind, yeah. Osayem Renimini. Osaye judge, yeah, or Timweni. In this case, does it mean saying Gaseno corner anymore? And Kobaka say it doesn't matter, constitution it doesn't matter.
It is not only the Dormaahene who has voiced such an opinion. A lot of people have said this.
I didn't hear.
But the Dormaahene is a traditional leader. He knows the law, and he's also a judge. Does what he has said mean if this case had come before him, he would have disregarded the constitution?
What is the implication? This is what I say. What the constitution didn't say. What the constitution we is sumo the Bayajuma. What you say? That's how I say. Sasa me by many man come for constitution in Yejuma. Hey, Emudru. I say me own. And yet trasa. Was another Dormaahene. Nimfi ngo any musao. Nti ebedu baby no bia he will qualify to go to the Supreme Court. To say a drew honey be our appointment committee ni bisa you don't qualify to be a Supreme
Justices have sworn to uphold the Constitution. So if you say you will not give effect to the Constitution, then what are you saying? This case is not that simplistic. The Dormaahene is not that old. He may be qualified at some point to go on to the Supreme Court. If at that time you face the appointments committee and these words are used against you, what will you say?
But if you are seminal, sometimes a reporter, maybe a seminal, maybe you are kind of funny, maybe a BB, maybe a company and a coin. So reporters no more.
But he has spoken. But he has spoken regardless. We all have to think about it. But as for what Nana said, with all due respect, I disagree with him.
Well, the Attorney General, Godfrey Adame, says it is worrying that certain individuals tend to make comments which are very unhealthy to the administration of justice. This was his response to a question on what he makes of the call by the Dormaahene for the state to discontinue the criminal case against Assin North MP-elect Gyakye Quayson. Mr. Adame has been speaking following a Court of Appeal decision which has set aside a High Court ruling that a trial of former COCOBOD CEO Dr. Stephen Opuni should start afresh. The Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable reports.
Dr. Stephen Opuni has been standing trial since 2017 when he was slapped with various charges, including causing financial loss to the state. Following the retirement of Justice Clemens Honyenugan, who was hearing the matter, the new judge, Justice Akwesi Jima, took the view that it was in the interest of justice that the case starts afresh. The AG took the matter to the Court of Appeal and the court agreed with him.
Offenses takes so long to conclude. I mean, it is just unheard of in England, America, and elsewhere that the trial regarding financial offenses which affect the taxpayers first will take about 6 years to conclude. It cannot, that trial be concluded in no time. And I speak from experience. When I was in Paris in 2009, when your MPP was supposed to, I conducted the very first criminal trial involving former foreign ministers, former ministers serving in the MPP before arbitration. Probably was Precious AD, the former foreign minister. I was Precious AD's counsel. And the trial lasted no more than 10 months.
Another case which has made the news recently is the trial of James Gyakye Quayson. Dormaahene Osiadeyo Ajimambedu II has recently made a call for the case to be discontinued following Mr. Quayson's electoral victory.
As a matter of urgency, I'm appealing to the President of the Attorney General. President of the Republic, if he has any role to play, that trial should be aborted. The Attorney General should, as a matter of urgency, file a nolle prosequi to end that particular decision.
The Attorney General says such comments are unhealthy.
I'm not going to comment on it right now. I'll come up with a proper statement on the matter. And in respect of all comments generally which have a tendency to subvert the administration of justice. I think that is very unhealthy for our democratic dispensation and therefore must not come to. I'll come up with a proper statement on it.
Mr.
Welcome back from the break. Now, day one of the vetting exercise of the flag bearer aspirant of the governing NPP has concluded with all three aspirants who appeared before the committee confident of progressing to the next stage of the elections. The vetting exercise will last 4 days with all 10 aspirants expected to go through this vigorous process of convincing the committee their competence of leading the party. My colleague Samuel Mbura was at the NPP headquarters and reports.
All the three aspirants scheduled for vetting went through the process successfully, with former Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kyerematen the first to appear before the vetting committee, chaired by Professor Mike Okoye. After his engagement with the committee, which lasted an hour and a half, Mr. Kyerematen said it was a successful conversation and indicated that he'll be hitting the campaign grounds to sell his message right after the process.
I had a good interaction with the committee. As you're all aware, I've been through this exercise on several other occasions, so I'm quite familiar and comfortable with this process. I think the important thing for you is to know that tomorrow I will start my constituency tours in Greater Accra. I have decided that I'll introduce an innovation into my constituency tours by clustering constituencies for the purpose of bringing our party executives together, not just within their own constituencies, but in a few other constituencies in the cluster. That will help energize the rank and file of our party. I mean, it's all about making sure that we work together as a party in our march towards victory 2024. So I hope we can work collaboratively with you on these rounds that will begin tomorrow.
May we know some of the issues that came up in the vetting?
No, it is not appropriate for us to discuss issues that have been discussed in camera. That has been the tradition and practice of our party.
On the part of energy consultant Kojo Poku, who was the second to be vetted, he expressed optimism of sailing through the process. According to him, he has met all the requirements and insisted that he's not backing down anytime soon.
It says that anybody that wants to stand has to have a minimum years of 5 years membership in good standing. I qualify, and that's what matters. I started this process last year, February, and with all the support I have across the nation, it shows that I am the one who the youth of this nation are looking forward to. I don't see anyhow any form that I'm going to look. The 5 that is going to be shortlisted, I am one of the first people that will come through the shortlist. Then from that, the November election, inshallah, I will most definitely win the election.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was the last to be vetted. His technical advisor, Alice Raj, told the media the exercise is a formality but a done deal for him.
Well, the signal is very strong, and I'm telling you with confidence, with no doubt in my mind, this election is a done deal for the Vice President of the country.
The next set of aspirants to appear before the vetting committee on Tuesday are Gyakye Jako, Kobene Japan, and Kennedy Japan. For Joy News, Samuel Mbura.
Well, the Narcotics Control Commission has destroyed and burnt into ashes 4,066 compressed parcels of marijuana at the Wa Municipal Refuse dumping site at Wa. The compressed parcels of marijuana valued at 4,066,000 Ghana cedis were arrested at separate locations in the region. The Wa High Court gave the order for the destruction of the marijuana after the police concluded forensic testing of the substance. Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The 4,066 compressed parcels of marijuana were seized at 2 separate locations following a tip-off. 3,156 of them were arrested at a 4-bedroom farm apartment at Lero in the Lamuse district by joint security forces located in the enclave. No arrest was made. The other consignment of the contraband goods, numbering about 910, were also intercepted on a U-turn bus at the WAPC barrier by the police. The bus was seized together with the goods and the driver arrested and is currently being prosecuted. The owner of the bus was made to pay a fine by the court and the bus released to him. Isaku Bakuri is the Upper West Regional Commander of the Narcotics Control Commission.
This marijuana is a combination of some 2 arrests that was made. One arrest was made at Lieru some time ago, and it comprised of 3,156 parcels of compressed marijuana. Then at PC, 910 parcels of another compressed marijuana was intercepted by the police. And if you put the two together, we have 4,066 parcels of compressed marijuana. And that is what we have just counted and confirmed the number. And
the 4,066 compressed parcels of the marijuana were then carted to the Upper West Regional Police Command headquarters, pending further investigations and also to apprehend the campaigns behind the illegal trade. A team of experts from the forensic unit of the Ghana Police Service were called in to have a test of the substance. The test proved positive. Isaku Bakri expressed worry over the use of narcotics by the youth, revealing the new trends they are engaged in.
And what is even worrying is the new trends, because the youth are now migrating from the use of the traditional drugs that we know, drugs like marijuana, cocaine, and heroin. And they are now going into non-traditional drugs, non-traditional substances like glue, super glue, and other things, which is very worrying, because if you know the effect, the chemicals that are in super glue, and then the health effect that it has on the individual if administered, then the situation is actually very worrying. But these are new trends. We are studying the trends, and we will come out with strategies to fight it.
An officer of the Attorney General's Department and Ministry of Justice, Kwame Boateng-Mensah, brought an application to the High Court, praying the court to order the regional commander of the Ghana Police Service to destroy the seized narcotics in their custody. Principal State Attorney, Lawyer Said Abdul Shakur, together with Francis Akwe and Joanna Pepson, stood as counsel for the applicant in pursuant to Section 108 of the Narcotics Control Commission Act 2020, Act 1019. The court, presided over by the supervising High Court Judge, Justice Yusuf Asibe, granted their wish and ordered for the destruction in the presence of the National Investigation Bureau, Environmental Protection Agency, Registrar, High Court, Ghana Immigration Service, and the Narcotics Control Commission. There were 4,000 compressed parcels of marijuana were taken to the One Municipal Assembly's refuse dumping site, where they were destroyed and bent into ashes. The street value of the compressed parcels of the marijuana is pegged around 4,066,000 Ghana cedis. Meanwhile, the Narcotics Control Commission earlier donated drugs to the West Central Prison to cater for the health needs of the inmates. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Highly spiritual music. You remember that I told you about last May's exit, and KY is finally having a conversation about it. He told KMJ on Prime Morning that, well, let's listen to KY.
Drew had to leave because his time with the label was up. He could have stayed. He could have stayed, even though we wished he would stay and then take him to our next level. He wanted to go. I remember having a meeting with both him and his manager, Jizzy, who was also not happy because he thought that it was an opportunity to also take him to his next level. Yeah. But he wanted to genuinely go. And I made peace with that. I understood somebody like Lasmith, after investing, wishing to take him to the next level. If I begin to talk about what the investment is, you would know that we really went deep. Had a conversation with him, and then we had to move to our next level. Then suddenly, the conversation we had, we sealed. It was not written, but it was sealed with understanding, both of us, with evidence. Suddenly, the narrative changes, because now he's become big and he's been influenced by seeing people in our circle, you know. Really? Yeah.
Well, there's more on that particular story in our subsequent bulletins, also on myjournline.com. Well, so on that Stoneboy note, hopefully we'll bring you something from Black Sherif tomorrow. But on that note, we end showbiz this evening.
Thank you very much.
You want them to log on to myjournline.com. That's where you find all the news /entertainment. And do we brush our teeth today or Pepsi?
Not today we don't.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So if you're not brushing your teeth, just,
All right. So that's how we wrap up the bulletin. Prime Business is up next with Beverly Broom. Thanks so much for your time. Meet again tomorrow, God willing.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Business here on Joy News Prime with me, Beverly Broom. Researcher and banking consultant Dr. Richmond Gyakye has expressed that there's no evidence indicating that rating agencies S&P, Moody's and Fitch have been reckless in downgrading the Ghanaian economy in the past 11 years. Speaking to Joy Business, he argued that a careful analysis of the methodologies used by the rating agencies for Ghana is the same used for developed countries like the United Kingdom.
Have received positive rating over the past 16 years. That has even enabled us to borrow consistently from the market. At least the last one was 2021. We borrowed 3 billion. It was rated as B+ by Fitch. But the issue is that we haven't managed our debt very well. Unfortunately, we seem to have either overborrowed without putting the necessary measures in place. So in 2020, we were downgraded 11 times by these 3 rating agencies. The last one came in when government decided in December that he was going to suspend the foreign debts and pay interest payment in addition to the domestic. Then the country was actually proclaimed to have defaulted. So for me, what I have done and the research I've done since 2003 to today, I didn't see any part which the rating agencies were actually made a reckless rating because they have consistently, let me repeat the word, consistently. It was only, the last one was in the 2022 where we were even downgraded. But it was not their fault. We have borrowed such a extent that our revenue generation, domestic revenue generation capacity was not enough to service the debt. Ukraine has come in. COVID has done his own job. But we haven't actually managed the debt to the best of our ability. So classifying as a default was no news to some of us because there was a clear evidence that we have overborrowed and we are not able to manage our finances very well to meet the international targets.
Currency analyst and research lead at GCB Capital, Courage Buti, has stated that the performance of the Ghana cedi in the next 6 months will heavily depend on the economic assessment by the IMF in September. The Ghana cedi ended the first half of this year with a better performance than the same period last year. According to Bloomberg, the cedi lost about 11.21% to the US dollar, yet was still classified among African currencies with worse port returns. Speaking to Joy Business, Mr. Buti said meeting the IMF benchmarks will be crucial in helping the cedi.
Looking ahead, we need to implement the program and implement it well with credibility. A first review is impending. If we do the mid-year review and then we suggest to the investor market that we are making progress with the macro reforms and then the structural reforms that we are targeting, if we can successfully pass the first review, which will be done in September, and I believe the investment sometime in November, if we can successfully pass that, it is a good signal to the market that we are on course. And those will be some positives. Of course, we've not heard so much about Cocoa Board going to market this time round, but it's a likelihood. Yeah, there are positives for the city, but then there is still uncertainty in the outlook, which we need to gather.
Moving on, the Office of the Registrar of Companies has extended the deadline for filing of annual returns and renewals up to September 30, 2023. This is to provide some space to allow businesses and organizations file their annual returns and renewals. The following report has more.
According to the Office of the Registrar of Companies, the extension of the deadline is to enable companies and businesses in default to complete the processes for filing their annual returns and renewals which they invariably could not complete due to the downtimes experienced by the software application system through the period, a statement from the Office of the Registrar of Companies explained. It added that the deadline extension applies to business names, companies limited by shares, companies limited by guarantee, which are churches, schools, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, foundations, associations, unions, societies, charities, external companies, partnerships, and professional bodies.
Now, government has been urged to support family businesses to aid in the creation of more jobs in the country. According to the convener for the Africa Family Business Summit, Dr. Dennis Owusu-Oteng, more sensitization program should be held to help Ghanaians understand and acquire more knowledge about the family business schemes. He was speaking at the 2023 edition of the Africa Family Business Summit.
Family businesses, many of which fall within the small and medium enterprises, are the center of growth in developing countries such as Ghana, as they contribute significantly to the growth. According to the PricewaterhouseCoopers, 71% of family businesses reported growth in their latest financial year. Dennis Owusu-Oteng called for African countries to leverage current opportunities.
The education model of Ghana should consider teaching family businesses from the basic schools, because myself, the family business concept was revealed to me when I was going to do my doctorate studies. I finished MBA, but I never really didn't know the concept of family business until I was going to do my doctorate. That's too late. So a lot of times businesses start on the wrong note. They need to get it from the beginning.
On her part, lead consultant at NACA Legacy and co-founder for the African family firms Chichi Mutendi and treated African countries to address challenges affecting the sustainability of family businesses.
I think there's a lot of opportunities in Africa because we have a lot of problems we're trying to solve. So because we have a lot of problems we're trying to solve, we have to look deep into our communities to see how we can solve those problems through solutions that are services and products, and allowing that to then lead the way in terms of the growth of the continent. As you can see, there are so many opportunities in construction. The continent has still got a long way to get to the international standard of development, and also to set the pace of what development should look like in a sustainable continent, because we have that opportunity to lead the conversation.
Global expert on family business, Professor Martin Rowe, called for succession plan.
I think there is a lot of opportunity for the African family firms, because you have to remember that the family firms also in Africa probably comprises 85 to 90% of the entire economy. It is, first of all, most of the companies. It is probably 2/3, if not 70 to 80% of the jobs. So it's very important that you get the family firms to thrive. The good thing about family firms is that, first of all, they're very competitive, because you got personal family members having a lot at stake to continue the legacy, but at the same time, they also have the urge to pursue, but also to kind of survive for a long time. Many of them have a very long-term vision. So that's going to pay back to society. And as a family firm, you're not only going to look at the local economy or the regional economy, any family firm can go worldwide.
This year's event was under the theme, Family Business Governance, a key strategy for continuity. The event gathered top family business experts, thought leaders and professionals to have an in-depth conversation and to provide insight on the topic of governance in the family business landscape.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says Ghana's bond with Turkey is beyond economic relationship, hence the need for Ghana to support Turkey in these challenging times. Turkey on 6th February experienced an earthquake that killed about 50,000 people and left over 100,000 people injured. In a bid to support the country, the government of Ghana has donated 11 20-footer containers of ready-to-eat cocoa products as emergency relief items to Turkey.
6th February 2023, Turkey experienced an earthquake that claimed about 50,000 lives and left over 100,000 people injured. The economic cost is estimated to be over $30 billion. As a long-standing ally, the government of Ghana has donated some relief items to the country. Here's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
Since 1958, we have had a relationship with Turkey, and therefore it's incumbent on us as friends to show a hand, however much, however small it may be. But Turkey itself has demonstrated incredible support, in several ways, and I know our businesses have really increased since the 90s. So in this spirit of partnership and shared prosperity, government and people in Ghana, through collaborative efforts of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Finance and Cocoa Processing Company, acting on the instructions of the President and Cabinet, procured 11 20-foot containers of ready-to-eat cocoa products as emergency relief items for the people of Turkey.
The government of Turkey expressed its appreciation and pledged continued friendship with Ghana. Hussein Gongosh is Turkish ambassador to Ghana.
Just after the earthquake, people and government of Ghana rushed to the help of my people, my country. Through Turkish Airlines here in Accra, we shipped 27 tons of various products to the earthquake region. So we always say Ghana is a very good partner and a true friend. Honestly, after many months after the earthquake.
And that's how we wrap up business tonight. For more business news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business. I am Beverly Broom. Sports is next.
Hello there, welcome to Prime Sports with me, Razak Musbao, and let's start off in Kumasi, where Kumasi Asante Kotoko have taken drastic action following a disappointing season as they failed to win any trophies. Now, sources at the Mention Palace have confirmed to us that the club owner Asantehene Otumfo Nana Osei II has ordered the dissolution of both the board and management of the club. Now, my colleague Fifi Manfred of our sister station in Shira FM has been following this story and has the full update on it.
Reports have it that as it stands now, Mensha has decided not to extend the mandate of Dr. Kwame Chei's board. So as it stands now, it means that the board has been dissolved. The board led by Dr. Kwame Chei has been dissolved after their 3-year mandate. We can confirm that the board isn't going to be together to lead the day-to-day activity of Kumasi Asante Kotoko next season. And that also means that the management of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, led by Nana Amponsa, also likely is going to be at post come next season. So what that means is that now there isn't a board, there isn't a management, and now the Mensha would look to appoint somebody else to lead a board, and then they will in turn bring in management to run the day-to-day affairs of Kumasi Asante Kotoko. I mean, you should also know that on the 30th of June, there was a letter that was sent to the playing body to let them understand that they should all proceed on holidays and nobody should tamper with any of their belongings at the club's apartment. Whilst they went away, the club was going to take inventory, and this is a process that started a couple of weeks ago for management and then the board to hand over everything back onto Mensha. So this was coming, and there you have it. Dr. Kwame Chei, no more as board chairman of Kotoko. Nani Amponsa, no more as CEO of Kotoko. We wait to see who really takes over the reins of Kotoko. But the early names that have come in, first one is Dr. Kweku Otin, CEO of the Angel Group of Companies, as his name has come as the earliest names, and we wait to see if that really is going to catch enough fire and for him to be the next board chairman of Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
FIFA Manfred of our sister station in Shira FM over there will keep tabs on this and bring you more as and when this story further develops. But let's talk about the former Black Stars players, Derek Boateng and Emmanuel Ajiman Bedu, and they have blasted the Ghana Football Association for the country's deterioration and the dismal performance of the various national teams. This comes on the heels of the Black Meteor's sad exit from the Under-23 AFCON group stage, as well as the results of the Black Galaxies at the CHAN tournament earlier this year and the Black Stars at the World Cup and AFCON tournament last year. Now, according to Derek Boateng, things must change quickly because the FA appears to have no idea what they're doing. And for former Under-20 World Cup winning player Ajiman Bedu, he believes the football authorities must be probed by an independent committee to determine what is truly wrong with Ghana football. But first, let's hear from Derek Boateng.
I don't know how they approach this tournament. They haven't had preparation. They never prepare for that tournament. Like I'm saying, football has been played outside before you go to the field. And for me, we haven't done enough, to be in the Olympic Games. That's the results, because sometimes they think when you invite the players, then they have to go on the field and perform. No, it's not like that anymore. It's not like that anymore. So for me, I think a lot of things have to be changed. A lot. I don't know what the FA is doing. For me, I don't think they know what they are doing. They don't know what they are doing.
They need to have an emergency meeting this week and bring a 7-member committee out. Even the government can involve somebody because they pay. They are paying you the players. So the government can involve somebody, the sports ministry. What is the use of Mr. Abedi Peles, the Tony Buffos, the Stephen Appiers, the Suleiman Mota, the Mike Lation? Bring them on board. Let them have a 7-member committee and check what is really going on. Let them call people. Ask them relevant questions. The rumors we are hearing, relevant questions. These individual people, bring them on board. Let's speak out. Maybe when you get them 1v1 like this, they may talk.
And that's all we have for you on Prime Sports tonight with me, Razak Musbao. Please do have a lovely evening.